Dear learners, welcome to this session Conflicts in International Arena and Overview. I am Dr. G. Uma, working as an assistant professor in the School of Gender and Development Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. This topic is part of the course BGP 003 Conflicts and Peace Global Perspectives. This course is part of the certificate program in Peace Studies and Conflict Management. Let us start defining conflict. Before the origin of the word conflict can be traced back to the Latin word confligere, which means to strike together. In a day to day life, you must be heard that word conflict and you must be wondering and what is the real meaning of the word conflict. Conflict denotes the variety of activities or emotions such as dispute, disagreement, discord, friction, fight, debate, argument, contest, war and other similar acts. There are variety of meanings we can give to the word conflict. In this course, in the course of time, in the course of time, the meaning and scope of the word conflict evolved and incorporate many other dimensions reflecting sociological, psychological, economic and political aspects of human lives. For example, literature in social sciences and international relations deal with these varied dimensions of conflict. Therefore, scholars have treated the conflict as a very complex concept with the divergent definitions and perspectives. So, the reason for divergent perspectives on the subject is that the meaning and nature of conflict is context centric. Historically, all political social organizations evolved through the complex process of engaging with the conflicts and attempts to find ways to manage and resolve it. Therefore, the meaning, nature, dynamics and patterns of conflicts keep changing over a period of time. So, what is the conflict? In this course, and we will learn what is conflict, how does it affect our individual and collective lives, what is the meaning of the word in international arena, how do people, groups, sovereign states deal with conflict in the process of interaction among them, and quest for an international system where the impact of conflict is very minimum. Conflicts in international arena include conflicts between nation states. You all must be understanding that if you talk about conflicts at the international level, it includes both conflicts between nation states, competition over resources both global and regional level, differences or discord between or among nation states and other political organizations over political issues, ethnic or religious conflicts with cross-border dimensions, struggle against repressive regimes and or struggle for creation of new nation states. So, traditionally international conflicts were understood in terms of armed conflicts or wars between two countries or group of countries. Over the period of time, our understanding of conflicts expanded to include conflict between state and non-state actors or between non-state actors. In contemporary world order, with increasing globalization, connectivity, greater mobility of people, technology and finances, these all, if you look at the contemporary world, we all must be experience the same thing. We are getting connected with everybody throughout the world. Now, wherever we are, we can easily get connected with our friends, relatives, our loved ones. So, the connectivity is very easy and we can get connected among ourselves very easily, and there is a greater mobility among people in the era of globalization and the development of various technologies and availability of technology and finances. The distinction between intrastate and interstate conflict is getting blurred in the 21st century, especially in the era of globalization and neoliberal economic policies. The large number of intrastate conflicts and intergroup or intra-society within one country with or without involvement of external players have significant impact on regional or global security architecture. So, with this introduction, the aims and objective of this session and next session is that after reading, we will upload the material also. After reading this unit and listening this lecture, all of you would be able to understand meaning and types of conflicts in the international arena. Already I have talked about how to define the conflict, nature and forms of contemporary conflict, and conflicts in international arena and its major manifestation and emerging trends. The last objective most probably you will be listen in the next lecture. So, these are the three major objectives for this lecture. First, let us see the meaning and types of conflicts in international arena. Historically, the literature on international relations focused on interstate armed conflicts or wars between or among countries as a dominant form of international conflicts. Like wars, as a famous strategic thinker Karl von Clausewitz puts it, were an extension of politics to achieve political objectives. The war is basically extension of politics to achieve political objectives. These political objectives were often defined in terms of territorial expansion, ideology of states or control over resources. The realist viewpoint on international conflict is based on two major assumptions. First is that states are prime actors in international system and international conflicts are conditioned by states' quest for security against external threats. Secondly, these threats are primarily military in nature and require the building up of military capability because conflicts are integral part of the international system. We need to understand the international humanitarian laws and conflicts. International humanitarian laws distinguish two types of conflicts, that is the international conflicts and non-international conflicts. International armed conflicts, commonly referred to as war, was understood as an armed conflict between two states, and non-international conflicts, that is civil war, as an armed conflict between the state and internally located insurgent movement that has taken up arms. For example, for long internal armed conflicts or civil wars were seen as domestic concerns outside the purview of international legal regimes because states were unwilling to allow international regulations in what they considered internal issues. So, legally speaking, if there is any internal conflict, mostly the states they do not allow the international players to involved in the internal matters, and mostly the states say that it is our internal matters. So, we do not allow the other states or international organizations to involve in the internal matter of the any particular states. So, mostly the states they are unwilling to allow the international institutions. So, legally speaking, no other type of armed conflict exists. However, intensity, brutality and impact of many internal conflicts, particularly after the Second World War, underline the necessity to review the laws of war to include non-international armed conflicts also. The International Committee of Red Cross presented the report in 1948, which recommended that Geneva Conventions should apply international humanitarian laws in case of internal armed conflicts also, especially in the cases of civil war, colonial conflicts or war of religion, which may occur in the territory of one or more of the high contracting parties, according to J. Pictet in the year 1960 he mentioned. However, Geneva Conventions did not fully accept this proposal and adopted Common Article 3, which defines non-international armed conflict as armed conflict not of an international character occurring in the territory of one of the high contracting parties. So, with the adoption of additional protocols in 1979, a new category of international armed conflict was added. Under this new protocol, 1. An international armed conflict will exist in situations, to quote, in which people are fighting against colonial domination and alien occupation and against racist regimes in the exercise of their right of self-determination as enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the Declaration of Principles of International Law concerning friendly relations and cooperation among states in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, unquote. With this background, now I would like to give the few of the definitions offered by scholars and research institutes with regard to conflict. The Uppsala Conflict Data Program, as part of the Uppsala University, that is the Department of Peace and Conflict Research, defines armed conflict as a situation where one state is involved in conflict with either another state or with the non-state actor in the form of an opposition organization, which causes at least 25 fatalities in a calendar year and wars, leading to at least 1000 battle related deaths in a year, according to Wallerstein and Solenberg in the year 2001. Like with this framework, UC Uppsala Conflict Data Program identifies following categories of conflicts in a contemporary international arena. These categories are interstate conflict between two or more governments, intrastate conflicts between a government and non-governmental parties with no interference with other countries, intrastate conflict with foreign involvement where the government side, the opposing side or both the sides receive troop support from other government that actively participate in the conflict, extra systematic conflict between the state and non-state group outside its own territory. These are few such conflicts today, as this category basically contains the colonial conflicts. Another one is the non-state conflicts between two organized armed groups, neither of which is the government of the state, which results in at least 25 battle related deaths in a year. Next one is one-sided violence, the use of armed force by the government of a state or by a formally organized group against civilians, which results in at least 25 deaths in a year. So, next definition is from the Heidelberg Institute for International Conflict Research, defines conflict thus, quote, a political conflict is a positional difference between at least two assertive and directly involved actors regarding values relevant to the society. That is, the conflict items include territory, secession, decolonization, autonomy, system or ideology, national power, regional predominance, international power, resources, which is carried out using observable and interrelated conflict measures that lie outside established regulatory procedures and threaten core state functions, the international order, or hold the prospect of doing so, unquote. So, next one is the Quincy Wright, one of the earliest scholars to make systematic study of war in international system, provides a comprehensive definition to include political, ideological and legal dimensions of international armed conflicts or war. He says that war is a combination of four types of conflicts: physical conflict, political conflict, ideological conflict and legal conflict. This was mentioned in by the Wright in 1990. Okay. Next one is that Singer defines conflict on the basis of political status of conflict parties. He makes the distinction between interstate wars, extra systematic wars, but here adds two further classes of non-state conflict, that is civil conflicts in which unlike and one protagonist may be an insurgent or revolutionary group within the recognized territorial boundaries of the state, and the increasingly complex intra-state wars in the former colonial state, where the challenge may come from culturally defined groups whose members identify with one another and with the group on the basis of shared racial, ethnic, linguistic, religious or kinship characteristics cited in by the Ramsbotham et al. In the year 2005. According to K.J. Holsti, in his 1996 book, The State, War and the State of War, that is published by the Cambridge University Press, the page number 21, categorized international, that is the interstate conflicts up to 1989 in terms of 24 issues grouped into 5 composite sets, that is conflict over territory, economics, non-state creation, ideology and human sympathy. These are the definitions we need to understand. The different people, they defined the conflict based on their studies at the international levels. So, I have given the references in the end of this lecture. So, if anybody wants to read further on these issues, you can very well go through these references. Some of the references I may mention, that is the Themmer and Wallerstein, that is the journal article, Journal of Peace and Research. Like for example, Galtung, Peace by Peaceful Means, Peace and Conflict, that is from the Development and Civilization, published by the Sage. Like that, there is a Schelling, The Strategy of Conflict by the Harvard University Press, and Uppsala Conflict Database, Department of Peace and Conflict Research, Uppsala University, Sweden. If you go to the, I have given the web link, if you go to this website, you can very well get the data on the definition for the conflict. Same thing with regard to Heidelberg Institute of International Conflict Research, Department of Political Science at the University of Heidelberg. If you search the University of Heidelberg website, that is located in the Germany, you can very well get the data and definition for the conflict. Same like a Kenneth N. Walls in 1979, Theory of International Politics, reading M.A. Addison Wesley in the year 1979. These are some of the references that is given in the given. So, if anybody would like to read further on definitions and the issues related to conflict, you can very well go through the books or the websites of the Uppsala University or Heidelberg University. Thank you so much for listening this lecture. Thank you.